In Python, the first step is that we need to have mysql.connector. We need to import mysql.connector so that we will be able to connect Python script to a MySQL database, right? So you can download a mysql.connector and install it in your computer, right? So you can check whether the header file mysql.connector is installed correctly by using the following code: import mysql.connector. And if the code runs without any errors, then if I've installed the mysql.connector and it's ready to use, right? So the header file mysql.connector, it contains all the APIs for connecting a host programming language like Python to a backend database. So you are expected to import mysql.connector and install it, right? So once you install mysql.connector in your computer, right, you are going to execute the code import mysql.connector. So if the code runs successfully, then mysql.connector is ready to use, right? So now you are going to establish a connection to the database by using the user ID and password, right? So the second step is that you are going to connect your database, and we'll also study how to create a database, right? So connecting to the database, so initially you are going to import mysql.connector as MySQL, right? So for connecting to the database, we need three parameters: host, user ID, and password. So DB is equal to mysql.connect, host equal to localhost. So host equal to localhost means that both the backend database as well as the Python program both are present in the same personal computer. Else you need to give the IP address of the host in which the backend database is available. So here, since we are going to use both the uh, host programming language as well as the backend databases available in the same machine, host is equal to localhost. So user ID is equal to the user ID of the database. So password is going to be again a password for connecting with the backend database. So once you establish a connection, you are going to print DB. So it will print a connection object if everything is fine, right? So it will print a connection object like the object given below: mysql.connector.connection, the see mysql connection object. So it will give some connection object if the connection is established and the connection object is working fine, right? So you all know the first step in working with databases is like creating a database. So let us assume that you are going to work with registration data, right? So whenever a user wants to use a particular web service, he has to register his details so that he will be able to use the particular web service. So let us try to create a database registration data and table users, right? So to create a database in MySQL, the command is going to be create database name, right? So again, you have the same sequence of statements: import mysql.connector as MySQL, DB is equal to mysql.connect. So you have the host name, username, and password, right? So we used to create the instance of your database. So creating an instance of cursor class is used to execute the SQL statements in Python, right? So cursor is equal to db.cursor, right? Then you are going to execute cursor.execute, create database name. right? Right. So the same thing we have extended it by creating a table, right? So initially you are going to establish a connection using the host name, user ID, password. So database is going to be registration data, right? So again, you are going to create an instance of the connection. So cursor is equal to db dot cursor. So cursor dot execute create table users. So name of the users and username. So name of the user is going to be varchar 255 characters and username is going to be varchar 255 characters, right? So now we'll study about how to insert records into a table, right? So again, you have a header file, import MySQL connector as MySQL. You are going to establish the connection, local host, user ID, password, and database name is going to be registration data. So you are going to create an instance of the cursor equal to db dot cursor. So you are going to define the query. So insert into users name comma user underscore name values percentages, and you are going to store the values in a variable, right? So the name of the user is going to be Arul and the username is going to be Murugan. So once you can have the query separately and values for the query separately, and then you are going to execute the particular query with values, right? So cursor dot execute query comma values, and to make the changes permanent to the database, we give this command db dot command print cursor dot row count records inserted, right? So it will print one record inserted, right? So it is possible to insert records into a backend database, right? Right. So hope you can follow this. Uh,
Yes, sir.
so So this is a very simple code for inserting records into a backend database, right? So the major operations that are performed are going to be insertion of data, selection of records, retrieval of records from the backend database.
Sir, do we do this in MySQL or PostgreSQL? Because we have PostgreSQL installed, not MySQL.
Yes. Uh, so this I have taken it from some websites, right? So you need to customize it, maybe few statements whenever you execute Postgres SQL. So I think
The connecting mechanism will be very different, no, sir?
right. So I'm not sure about it. So we use some right. So whenever we can, we use some online editors to execute MySQL or Python. But I think the things will be same, right? I think I have gone through some.
The queries will be same only, sir. Yeah, but the
Sir,
setting
but
up is different.
yeah, we can't use MySQL.connector for
Yes, sir.
Postgres.
We'll need a different module for it, sir.
Right, but I think the same thing will be there. Even you use some other connector, you have the same host name, user ID, password, and database name, and the rest of the instructions are expected to be same.
Yes, sir.
This
So,
is this is
like, are we allowed to do it in either of them, or
Like, can we use a Postgres connector if we find
yeah,
it?
yeah, that's it. If there is a Postgres connector and you can make it, you can make use of it. The idea behind going for Postgres SQL is that it's a free and open source software. Like
yes, sir?
else, we don't have any issues in any backend database, right?
Okay, sir. Yeah.
Right. So IBM DB2 is a licenseware, right? So Microsoft SQL Server is again licenseware. So the thing is that that's why we promote Postgres SQL. Else, we don't have any issues in using MySQL and so on. So this I have taken it from some of the websites. So I wanted to give you some input regarding how to work with inserting records in a backend database, deletion, and so on. And I'm sure that you will be able to customize it based on the backend you have, right? So next example is about how to retrieve records from a backend database, right? So again, import MySQL connector as MySQL. So to give the supporting files to support the establishment of connection, execution of queries, we go for this header file. You are going to establish a connection to the backend database using the user ID, password, database name, and so on. So we create an instance of the cursor. Cursor is equal to db.cursor. Then here the query is going to be select star from users. It is going to display all the records, all the user details who have registered for a particular web service. And cursor.execute query will execute the query, and you will fetch all the records. Cursor.fetch all will fetch all the records from the cursor object. And to display the records, we have this clause statement for record in records, print record. So it will be used to display all the records from the backend database, right? So the last slide that I wanted to share you is that how to work with update statement in SQL, in Python and MySQL. So again, only thing you need to change the query. So the query is going to be update users, set name is equal to Arun, where ID is equal to 1. So you are going to update the users with ID is equal to 1. You are going to set the name as Arun, and you are going to execute the query, and you are expected to commit the changes permanent to the database, right? So it looks simple, right? So using this, you can create a simple application where you are expected to insert student records into a backend database, right? And later update one one or two records. Later update one record in a database, right? So you are expected to explore how to insert students records into a backend database, right? And how to update a student record based on the roll number. So using the roll number, you are going to update some attributes of the student. So can you make it? So I want you to write a simple application in Python. You can use the same code, also MySQL code, to insert student details into the backend database. So that can be one component. So and the other component is that to update the student details for student ID is equal to 22, right? So you can explore, you can type it, you need not type it, you can write it, and you can share a copy of the code with me. So can you make it? So who wants to contribute?
Sir, what do we have to do, sir? We have to like write the code and
Write a application program using Python to store the details of the students in the backend database, like student ID, student name.
Right now, sir?
Yeah, right now, because that's it. Today we have the first session is like working with Python and SQL. I think the things are simple, right? So you need to establish a connection. You need to create an instance of the database. You need to execute a query, right? You need to fetch the records from the backend database. So things are simple, right? It's just a few lines of code. So if you can make it, that's it. We'll move on to the next topic.
So we'll try it after class. Right now we'll have to install the connector and all.
Well, I thought that you are going to write it in a piece of paper and share it, right?
Oh, okay.
You may not install it. Install it.
Some of us even know Python.
Sir,
Ah, Tell me.
Sir, like we didn't have a direct Python course in our syllabus until now, sir. Like we have to learn it by ourselves and do it, sir.
Right. For for a long time, we never teach any programming language to students. Like the thing is that in United Trichy, we don't promote any technology. It's like students they learn C programming maybe in the first year, and the other courses they learn it by themselves. So like it's for the students to explore and make it.
Yes, sir. We'll learn and we'll try it, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so if you are not interested, we'll move on to the next topic. So that's it. So I think I will share the presentation and maybe some documents with you. So with that, you will be
Yes.
able to code it. So things are simple, right? It's just a few lines of code. Only thing you need to uh, install the supporting files for connecting Python with a backend database, establish a connection, execute some SQL queries, and retrieve the records from the backend database into the application domain, right? So I think today's lab class is based on whatever we have discussed now, right? So let us move on to the next topic. So I hope you'll be able to make it, right?